And happy Friday once again. Last vid for week 8 Fan Duel main slate. This is your boy Grade A Fantasy. Let's jump right into it. So, contradictory to one of the things I did say in my last video, which is why I waited. Maybe I saw some reports earlier in the week where they were trying to hold him out to play, but Sauce Gardner's out. So, the Flacco doubles and worried about the shadows and everything about Jamar Chase? No. So, Flacco doubles are in play. He's worth every six. So now you really got to think about it. If Sauce Gardner was there, maybe you could go under the field on Chase. Now you're just doing it just to be different. But you have a higher percentage of Sauce slowing him down, just like Patrick Surtain has CeeDee Lamb. But now that Cincinnati and they're at home, that Cincinnati game has a chance of going nuclear, but nuclear on one side. Jets just have a chance of just looking at least somewhat competent against the weakest defense in the league. Like I said, it's fantasy, so exploit weaknesses. But if the Jets look that bad against Carolina, I mean, what's really their optimized team total if you really think about it? 17, 20, if that, maybe. And that's not really good for fantasy because if you agree with me by saying 17, 20, that means they're getting a little bit of yardage and only 2 touchdowns that day. So maybe the Jets are a fade actually in Cincinnati. I don't know. But with that news, Sauce is out. Viable. I could see the strategy. But even though he's great against man, like I said, it is Patrick Surtain. So there's a possibility that I'll be probably playing Pickens just a little bit more because the ownership is definitely going to go to CD and Chase, without a doubt, regardless of their price. A.J. Brown was still spotted on the sideline from practice, so it doesn't look like he'll play this week. It's trending. It's not official, but he's on the sideline on a Friday, and when you're on the sideline on a Friday, it doesn't look like you're gonna play Sunday. So if you're looking for anything, obviously Devontae Smith against the Eagles, it'll be either Jahan Dotson or maybe even John Mechie, but it's really going to be Jahan Dotson because it's a very, very consolidated offense. You're not, unless injuries only give the bench players a chance. So A.J. Brown injury means more to Goddard, more to Devontae Smith, more RPO runs between Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley. That's all that really means. But for any budgetary reasons, another 4,200 spot because of an injury, just like how I went over in my tight end video. Let's continue and move on. Nico Collins definitely trending on being out. Hasn't practiced all week, concussion. So we could actually talk about him and Christian Kirk not being out. So back to the value pool. Definitely one of my more favorite plays this week that I will definitely get to. And you could go a couple ways. Here's the one thing about playing like the preseason game. Xavier Hutchinson was a preseason darling even a couple of years ago. So Xavier Hutchinson has been with the team for a while, knows the system. But because of the way he played last week, Jalen Noel is the one that's getting a lot of attention. Plus, he's an extra $500 cheaper. But you can go to either way. There's 2 wide receivers that are basically out. So both of those wide receivers are valuable. I'm not saying stack now. That offense has looked horrible. But what I am saying is any other stack, your complimentary third wide receiver could be definitely one of these 2. Xavier Hutchinson is more of a big play, deep threat, while Jalen Noel is more of your position, slot receiver. Like I said, Xavier Hutchinson, this is like his second year, has shown strong performances in preseason the last couple of years. This is due to my research from the Hall of Fame game that I always like to play every year. So Xavier Hutchinson and Noel are both viable with 2 injuries being out. Nico Collins still having practice with a concussion. It's not official yet, but I don't think he played. And Christian Kirk has just been hurt just in general. As we continue, Drake London, yes, very viable against Miami, but how much do they have to throw? You have to hope Drake London. Every Falcon is viable against Miami, but if this is Miami, this could easily be, if your wide receiver doesn't get much in the first half, both Bijan and Tyler Algier could take everything in the second half. So this is one of those just be wary, but I'll still get to Drake London. Cortland Sutton, you still have to get to. against that weak Dallas defense. Every week, he should at least try to get 1 or 2 people against Dallas. Always is just mandatory the way fantasy has gone this year. Garrett Wilson's out, and Mbuka's right back on schedule. So he's definitely the number 1 for Baker Mayfield. Against the Saints. Other top plays, like I said, I'm definitely going to get to a little bit more Pickens this week against that Denver secondary. It's a good secondary, but Pickens won't draw the Surtain shadow like CD will. But like I said, I think CD moves because CD plays the left outside. He plays the slot on both sides. Pickens is the right outside receiver, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Maybe Pickens, because of CD moving around and Pickens staying outside, maybe Pickens sees Surtain, but most definitely for sure the Surtain shadow is real. Just for ownership purposes, he's going to be Pickens is not as expensive. I like the way they priced him this time. Last week they were basically in the $8,000 and $600 or $800 apart from each other. This makes it easier to get the Pickens as well. But on the opposite end, you can still double stack with Dak. That is viable. Because both of these wide receivers have the capabilities of eating up man coverage. Zay Flowers. Here's the thing with Zay Flowers. Lamar practiced in full, but he still technically practiced in full because he had no limitations. But he was technically behind Cooper and Tyler Huntley. News just came out that Tyler Huntley will be the starter if for some reason they don't start Lamar. If they start Lamar, everything goes as normal. Zay Flowers, great man matchup. The Bears had to rule out another quarterback today, so that's even better. So now at most, Zay Flowers is going to see one of their nickel guys as a starter, and he can eat them up easily. That's good injury news on that end. Bad for the Bears. But if it's Huntley can put up some decent numbers, but it's mostly dink and dunk. I would fade Zay Flowers because Tyler Huntley, from his days with the Ravens and even appearances with Miami, he's going to run it. He's an RPO guy. He's going to dink and dunk, and he's a tight end guy. He has the running capability. He can be a cheap option, but if Tyler Huntley starts, I fade Zay Flowers immediately. This is fantasy and just the way the game style is played. If you remember Tyler Huntley from over the years, there was one time Lamar got hurt. I think he played 7 to 8 games, and because somebody else got hurt, because of how he performed the 7 to 8 games, Tyler Huntley has a Pro Bowl appearance. So, yes, very viable on the ground, but it's one of those that you're going to have to wait and see. Maybe you might hear something later tonight. Maybe you might hear something Saturday doing like a final walkthrough, because the Ravens are at home. So it's not like you got to wait for something or wait for them to fly and do something. Wait for Sunday morning. There's a possibility that you can find out this news, or we can find out this news Saturday night. T. Higgins against the Jets. I mean, they're both viable. Once again, I mean, if you want to play the percent, now it's just playing the percentage game. At least with Dallas, there's a bit of a strategy because there's a part that, Surtain, at least limit CeeDee Lamb's upside. This is now just, hey, you got to hope that the game goes this way. Other top players that I like this week, Michael Pittman. Even with the tear that JT is on, Jonathan Taylor, Pittman is still putting up numbers. So, and at a reduced price of $6,800, you got to love that. Devontae Smith, like I said, especially if Brown is out, he definitely gets a boost. He's a $6,700 wide receiver. If A.J. Brown was out before this week, he would have been priced maybe like 77, maybe even 78. Olave, I've been strong on Olave the last couple weeks. I'm going to continue. Other top plays, Tedero McMillan. He gets the veteran good quarterback boost with Andy Dalton. With Andy Dalton on the center, it's going to be probably an even better, more competent passing game. So Tedero gets a boost. You don't have to worry about Tedero making the big plays. Remember, it's the same defense that the Bills have been running for years. It's more of a cover 2 type shell. 4-2-4. It's more like a 4-2-5 kind of weird kind of defense. Especially they do this when they're still having like linebacker issues. They're another team that has injuries. They can't play their traditional 4-3 sets or transition to a 3-4. So when you have all these cornerbacks and so on and so forth, they keep everything from beating over the top and taking everything in front of them. So McMillan should have a fine game. I actually like the upside of Xavier Legette if we scroll down and find him a bit, because when he came into the game, Andy Dalton instantly went to Xavier Legette, and had almost 10 targets, or I think he had 10 targets for 5,300. So I actually like Dalton doubles to be contrarian, all Dalton and one of these guys. So it's a very cheap stack. And when you talk about cheap stack, you also talk about Olave against Tampa Bay. Still a pass funnel. Chris Olave, now just under 7,000. You got Rashid Shaheed. I don't want to miss this. I've been lucky the last couple times because 3 weeks ago, it was before that, you got Shaheed getting a couple big plays, and it was just Olave just getting nice scores and value until Olave started getting the touchdowns. I got a feeling sooner or later that Shaheed big play is coming back. I will definitely try to get a little contrarian with Spencer Rattler doubles, or take turns, and if Rattler's my quarterback in my lineup, one will have Olave, one will have Shaheed, so on and so forth. But it would be a low-owned stack either way. I think it's super contrarian if you actually double stack it that way. Jawan Johnson against Houston. Houston, like I said, solid defense. But I think it's still gonna run through McCaffrey and whatever they choose to get the big plays here and there. Darnell Mooney, if he clears, he's in a good matchup. He's actually in a better matchup with the Dolphins secondary. So Mooney at 6,000, whether if you get Penix or Cousins. Penix is now officially questionable going into Sunday, so you're going to have to wait on that news. And keep going down this low. We just passed him, but it seems like he has a connection with him. But like I said, we'll go back up here. I think I passed him up here. Where is he? Mr. Diggs at 62. Derek May stacks with Kayshon Boutte, who has been playing well these last few weeks, 5,900. Like I said, both teams are going to shut down the run or limit the run upside. They will. Both teams will have to pass, and obviously the better passing team is New England, so I like Kayshon Boutte beating Cleveland over the top deep. There goes Rashid Shaheed again. My favorite pay down this week is Tez Johnson. He worked out for me a couple of weeks ago, catching that one bomb and set me over the top, and he wasn't owned. He's going to be a little more popular. I don't think he's going to be chalk, but he's definitely going to be more popular than what he was a couple of weeks ago. 5,700. There's another option right there, Sterling Shepard, 56. He's going to have to just get a whole bunch of snaps due to what they don't have out there. And if we keep going down this far, Troy Franklin, because of the volume he gets in the passing game, 5,400 is good. Like I said, Xavier Leggett also one of my favorite paydowns, but nobody's better than 5,700. I don't care what wide receivers out there. 5,700 Tez Johnson is my favorite. Marvin Mims could also get that deep throw over the top. It always happens a couple times a year. That's also one of those big play things that if you don't have it, it kind of screws you. Because he's not a volume guy. Mims is the type that will get 3 to 5 receptions, and it'll be for 114, 117, and 2 touchdowns. Something like that. I don't really see anything that I like. Like I said, Xavier Hutchinson, 5,000. That's pretty much it, guys. I don't really like nothing down here. I really don't. Besides what I expressed earlier. Mac Hollins, Brandon Cook. No. Jalen Noel, 4,500. I think that's as far as I go. I think that's as far as I go on FanDuel. So when it comes to the pay-ups, let's go over this. So the pay-ups go here. I rate them 1, 2, 3. Jamar Chase, number 1. And Cortland, we have to go all the way down to Cortland Sutton in a way because there's a lot of injuries and what-ifs here or whatever. So I guess we consider pay up 7,700. That's not cheap. So if it was me, I like Jamar Chase, Cortland Sutton in that same game, and then CeeDee Lamb, just because of the minus of the Patrick Surtain shadow. The way I strategize sometimes, I just respect those shadows. There's certain shadows that I say no. There's certain shadows that I'll get limited to. Mid-range options. George Pickens at 72 takes the cake for me. T. Higgins at 7,000. Then I like Devonta at 67, and then Michael Pittman at 68. No, scratch that. Let's put Chris Olave right there in the middle at 3rd on that pass funnel. And then as we keep scrolling down, I guess you could kind of consider this pay downs. 6,400, Tet McMillan, Diggs, Mooney. Tez Johnson's my number 1 pay down. Troy Franklin, Xavier Leggett is right there. And then, like I said, you have a combination of Xavier Hutchinson, And then, Jalen Noel. That is where we go from here. So, pay attention to the news. We still got to wait for confirmation on Lamar. For those who still want to get contrarian, got to wait to see what the Jets do. Other than that, thank you for tuning in once again. This is your boy, Grade A Fantasy. Good luck this week in building those lineups. I'm your boy, Grade A Fantasy. I'm signing off.